Welcome, everyone, to the Monday Afternoon Roundtable. I'm David Munday. I'll be your host today. I've got my brothers, Tim and Jason.
Hello, everybody.
Good to see everybody.
It's been a crazy week. I know for me, and I know for both of you, too. You've been out of town, both of you working?
Both of us out of town. Many hours.
Yeah, working odd hours, many odd hours.
Long.
Yeah.
So
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Today's episode is going to be a little bit different, guys. We're going to talk about something that a lot of people consider dirty deeds. And I get asked about it quite a bit. And it's the seedy side of our business, what some people think, but in reality, it's probably one of the better things as far as productive things that we have at our disposal. And our listeners like that kind of seedy, dirty, behind the scenes.
It's not that seedy.
It is. It's
But
kinda,
it's literally
It's
dirty.
unless you've ever done it,
It's
pretty
dirty.
damn nasty. But it's we're going to talk about trash pools and the importance of them. They're also called in the law enforcement circles trash hits. Dumpster diving, we've all heard of that.
Yes.
And I cracked a rib one time trying to get a bag of garbage out of a dumpster. It slipped, and I went down on my rib and cracked it. But my favorite is refuse archaeology.
That's us.
Yep.
Yeah, refuse archaeology. I like that. You know, it's a practice used by law enforcement. You probably did it when you were in law enforcement.
If I had a great case one time. It was a drug case, and we did a garbage pull, and the dealer, it was a low-level dealer, but he had thrown away his record-keeping notebook where he had all his clientele
Bless him.
and their names and their phone numbers and how
addresses.
much. Well, it didn't have addresses, but it had about how much they bought every week, and it led to a search warrant.
Yeah, and that's pretty much how this all started. How it got through the Supreme Court in 1988 case, California versus Greenwood. It was a 6-2 decision that the Fourth Amendment does not apply to garbage left on the street. Now, you can't go onto the curtilage of the home,
Correct.
but you can go when the garbage is taken out and it's at the end of the street or on the curb. Then it's
Public
all
property.
Yeah.
That's right.
Or taken to a convenience site and dumped, or
Correct.
dumpster.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit more difficult, especially when you have to follow them to a dumpster. You know, there's 200 white bags in the
You have
trash
the
can,
eyeballs.
and you have to see, and it's a little bit harder to testify to that. But Greenwood was a drug case, just like the one you're talking about, and the police couldn't get enough probable cause, so they go and they check his garbage, and lo and behold, there's some drugs in the garbage can. So that gave him enough for a search warrant, and ended up arresting him. Of course, Mr. Greenwood challenged it, and it went all the way to Supreme Court, and that's where we are with it.
And the favor was on the law enforcement side.
Right. Greenwood had there was no reasonable expectation for privacy under the Fourth Amendment for garbage. Now, a lot of attorneys will argue that, and a lot of states have a few different rules and regulations with it. But the number one concern I have, and I know you guys do, is trespassing. You certainly don't want to trespass on anyone's property, and you have to stay on the curtilage. And it's sometimes harder to do than people think, but we've all done it.
And once you get caught doing a garbage pull, you're done.
You're done
on that case.
pretty much. Yes.
That's the end of those days.
What I try to do is I go and research when the garbage collection is made, and like locally around here, they've got a schedule and a geographical map when they show up. The early morning hours of the night before, the night they put it out, in other words, when the trucks come in the following day, I try to go in the a.m. hours. And I've always just my thing to go from 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. because that's when those individuals are in that deep REM sleep, and they're not going to be woken up anything in the garbage can. I secure those. I do a pre-surveillance. I go out and I check it out and kind of see where everything is, the street lights, make out the volume of traffic in that area, any security cameras, things of that nature. And I check for local neighborhood Karens, those that are nosier than hell and going to see everything you do. But like Tim said, if you're spotted, you're done. One thing I try to do, and when I take my car before I go, I make sure everything's out of the back of the SUV where I can throw things in there quick, because the quicker you can get in and out, the better. Sometimes if it's on a cul-de-sac or at the dead-end road, it's tough to get in there and do.
And what I always do is have one of those laundry baskets or,
Mm-hmm.
so that way the trash doesn't seep through into your car.
Oh,
'Cause
that's a problem. Yeah.
yeah.
And you got recycling bins that the last case Mark and I had was mainly recycling, and
But that can be just as good if it's.
but we could not take that entire bin.
Yeah.
Take
I see.
pictures.
So it was only photographs, but it was good evidence.
All right. That was one of the things I was going to ask when you, and I've done it both ways because of time and security. A lot of times I might just grab that first bag because that's all I'm going to have time to get. And other times I get everything that's in there. The only problem with getting everything that's in there is if he or she comes back out the next morning to throw something in the can, knowing that the truck hasn't arrived yet, and they're going,
And it's empty.
what happened here? What's going on?
We even talked about putting
Dummy
our
bag,
garbage
Dummy trash.
back in.
Right.
I still
but you
would-
wouldn't want to use your
your
garbage.
garbage.
Yeah.
Because
No.
if he's using black bags and you replace it with white bags, he gets
Correct.
suspicious,
Yes.
opens it up, and
Yeah.
then he's got your
Right, true.
information.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want to put anything from your own in there. A lot of times with the pre-surveillance, if you can see what kind of color bag he's taking out, it might be just to throw it full of paper and throw it in there to where you can't see it. You've got to have a pretext. Always, always, always have a pretext when you go out there. Why are you there? If you get caught. If the police come by, you can pretty much say, hey, I'm doing a garbage check. I'm a private investigator. I'm doing a garbage pull. They're going to know what you're doing. They're probably going to be on their way.
Yeah.
Now, if a neighbor catches you, it's not quite as bad as the target catching you, but if the target finds out that what you're doing, like Tim said,
It's
no.
over.
Yeah, you got to turn out the lights.
And you'd be surprised how active a neighborhood can be at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning.
It's going where it is.
Yeah, and you got your paper delivery people. You got the people taking the dog out for work. People that just keep odd hours that work third shift and going outside to smoke or anything.
And I'm asking this question because I don't know, and I've worked several cases where it's been a gated community, and getting in and out's a bitch. You have to go in behind someone pretty fast or quick, tailgate them and get in, or you have to find a code. And but wonder if that's any different in the legalities of the Fourth Amendment with it being a gated community. I don't know. I'm just asking that
I
question.
wouldn't think so because you're still curtilage versus private road.
property.
It's not a
Yeah.
gate to the property, the individual property.
Yes.
Now, some large PI agencies, and I know a lot of large police departments have their own garbage trucks, and they can just pose as garbage collection people. This Greenwood case, they use the actual city garbage
truck, yeah.
drivers and pickup. They told them, said, go get this garbage and bring it back to us, and that's what they did there. Equipment, and help me here. Some of the equipment that I use when doing, and I've done several garbage pulls, and probably 80% of them have been successful. So they're worth their while. So I always have a pair of gloves, preferably plastic long gloves that'll cover my wrist. Old clothes, of course, and shoes because you're going to probably stain them and get dirty. Trash bags if you want to replace. A step ladder.
Yeah, yep.
For some people, might need a step ladder because these things are pretty deep. If you're not careful, you're gonna fall in. But flashlight, but you got to have something you can either put in your mouth or on your head because you're going to use both hands. And and this is why we're doing this. Is kind of a
That's why I said with Mark, it's better with two.
Oh,
You gotta
definitely.
One person photographing while the other person's working.
yeah.
And
But
that worked out great for us. And I know Jason and I have done pulls, and it's,
don't think I've
it's
ever
so
done one
much
with
easier
somebody.
with two people. One person is hard.
It is hard doing it one person.
Yes,
It's a
you
little
got to
scary.
photograph, you got to pull, you got to run. You know,
you got to make sure you have a tarp or a ground sheet, something you can put the stuff on once you get away from the scene. Sanitizer for sure. I mean, we all carry that in our car. And again, the pretext is extremely important. Digital camera, got to have. A black Sharpie or a red Sharpie and index cards where you can document what you decide that you're going to preserve and keep. And, of course, a chain of custody evidence forms that we all use. Things that you need to look for, not necessarily evidence, but dogs,
Yeah.
rodents, rats, mice, raccoons, cats,
all the above.
snakes. I've seen it all except snakes. But homeless individuals, that's another one.
Homeless.
And they'll sleep behind them, and they'll scare the bejesus out of you if you don't know they're there. again, some PIs that I've even worked around, they think it's beneath them to do a garbage pull, and they pretty much look at you like, you got 5 eyes when you say you're going to do that. But it's a good tool, and I think I hope we can keep using it. But here's some of the cases I've used garbage pulls on, and I know you guys just used one on family law cases, of course.
Yes.
Those involving infidelity, alimony, and child custody. And some of the things I try to look for: receipts, financial receipts, love letters, and correspondence. You will find that, especially cards. Every once in a while, you can find cards addressed to the target. Pharmaceutical items, medicine bottles, those are good. And ever since I started doing this, I always tear the label off all of my prescription pills now, just because of my paranoia.
You'd be surprised that people throw away their bottles.
Oh, no, it's still
with their name and address and doctor's name and everything,
or their pharmaceutical bag with the the item listed on it. Doctor appointments are sometimes in the garbage. Of course, financial documents, alcohol containers. That was what you guys hit a home run on the other day. Cans and bottles. The only problem with that is they make a lot of racket getting them out, and you got
that we left them and just
took photographs. Pretty smart. Legal documents sometimes are worthwhile. Food containers, and I had a PI ask me one time, "Well, why would you?" I photographed all the food containers because it was a father who had custody of the child on the weekends. The only thing that was in that trash can were sugary foods, processed foods, takeout orders, fast food bags. That's all that was there, and we used that.
Never cooked a meal.
Right. A lot of soda cans and things of that nature. And people say, well, that doesn't make sense. But when you have custody of that child, you have to make sure that they receive nutritious meal. Photograph and other reading materials. They may throw away magazines of any kind or anything that they might.
You learn their habits.
You sure do. Another one that people kind of look at me like, you're crazy, is soiled diapers. I don't keep those diapers, but I photograph them. And what I'm looking for is bloody stool from a child, an infant. And I've seen that. Or diapers that are just extremely full of feces. I mean, you can tell they're not changing the child, or they'll have blood on the side. And I know this is gross and terrible, but it's strong supporting evidence. Deposit slips have been good to find in the trash. But it's a treasure trove.
A couple other things. Anything that shows the target's name and their address, just show that that's their trash. And any form of birth control used, you're not going to collect it, but like you can take a picture of it or the box that it came in or something.
And what you're looking for is a pattern. You want to establish a pattern of the evidence you're looking for
and lifestyle.
Yes,
what their lifestyle is.
If that pattern only happens one time, it's going to be hard for that attorney to approve in court. That attorney wants multiple times.
More than one time for sure. But you were talking about, I always try to get 2 mailers, these stupid mailers that people send. It's usually got a name and an address on it. If I can get 2 of those. You used a package on a subpoena the other day, or today, I think. But I thought that was smart. You took a photograph of to show that you were there at that residence. We got the right place.
Yeah.
Just to show.
And you can get a lot of that nowadays. Amazon, drop or FedEx or whatever. And I, if I'm trying to serve a paper, I always take a picture of it to show the client that's hired us, hey, we're at the right place, and of the house or the address.
Some of the successes I've had with garbage pulls is one was a case. The guy was poor mouthing that he didn't have any money. He's broke. His wife's trying to take all the money. They had children. Found receipts in his garbage where he was going to a local nightclub, tipping double to what his fee or his charge was, because he had a hot waitress or whatever, and he was giving her a lot of money.
So a $20 meal, he gave a $40 tip.
And sometimes even more than that. Alcohol containers, those are great. Marijuana baggies, I've seen those. I've seen everything from oxycodone to Viagra bottles.
And Viagra is important in a infidelity or
Yeah. One other weird thing that I found one time. This was a pretty big case, and it went on for several months. It was a corporate case where someone was wrongfully using their expense accounts, wigs,
business
account
Mine
buying wigs, not just one or two, and not cheap, expensive wigs. When I opened that trash can, it scared the hell out of me. I thought it was a rodent. I jumped back, and it was wigs. I think it was 3 in the garbage.
That's funny.
And I got those and logged them in as evidence. Hotel receipts, yeah, I've used those. Condoms, used and unused. Of course, you're not going to take those, but you're going to photograph them. If there's someone supposedly living by themselves, what's that there for? Feminine products, if it's a male living by himself. Clothing items, I've seen this where it's an entitled individual and they'll throw away a blouse or a sport jacket just because they wanted a new one. They'll just throw them away. Telephone bills are a lot of good information there. Hair, and more hair. That's the best, probably the most that you see in a garbage pull. Just clobs of hair from the cleaning of the bathtub or whatever. So, you may or may not need DNA later, but it's always there and easy to get.
I think bank accounts is the best.
Those are great.
Yeah.
They tell all.
Taking the disposed items once you finished, you got this stuff. And let me back up. When I pull up, I got a black SUV, a small one. I don't use my foot brake. I use my hand brake, or what I used to have, and or I'll tap my emergency brake slowly down to where the brake light won't come on. Push the emergency brake all the way down, jump out, have my back already open, my back of the SUV where they're making no noise. I slowly close it when I get everything in. Ease off. No headlights. The one problem that some people have, they'll not turn their interior lights off, and then all that lights up when they get out. So it's just because it's going to deter any onlookers.
Good pre-planning.
Yeah.
Know where the master bedroom of the house is. 99% of the time, it's on the other end of the. Think about it.
And that's what you got to do during due diligence.
The master bedrooms are either on the back or the far left or right of the house.
And a lot of clients look at me when I ask that question, where's the bedroom in relation to the house and the roadway? And they'll say, well, why do you know that? Because of that reason. Dogs. Animals around the house, pets. For dogs,
Neighbors' dogs.
Neighbors' dogs. That's what I'm
they're
saying.
going to bark. When they see that car pull up, they're going to start raising hell. Just go on. You've lost it if the dog starts really barking at you.
I still don't think there'll be another pull like we had that day.
Oh, we hit a home run.
That was the major league pull. I don't care. We sat there. I mean, everything we pulled out of that bag. Woo!
And what was amazing was
then it went to wee.
What was amazing was
Scarborough.
that was the cleanest trash I've ever seen. I
There
usually
was no
gag.
trash.
Yeah, I usually go, get sick. There was no smell. There was no nastiness
There was no trash. It was all the items we
needed.
All right. After you secure your garbage, you're clear. You've made it. I usually go to a car wash stall. That's a good place to go because you can pull in one of the stalls. You got lights, and it's usually in the morning or late at night when I'm there, so I need that lighting. Or you can bring it back to the office. The only problem with that is you got all the smell and odor that goes with it. I try to keep it out of the office. I have used the garage at my house before.
I've done that before.
Spread everything out on the floor and then just get a hose. But I take a picture of the bags in their entirety just as I found them. I number them, and I always put my sequence number, my management number, whatever it is, and the case number. And then I open bag one, spread everything out on the tarp, photograph that. Then I pick, I may not use any of that like you guys did. You used probably 90% of everything that was in there. You may not use any of it. You photographed it, but it's not relevant. There's nothing there. Bag two, you find some receipts. You find love letters or whatever. That you pull those things after you've taken a picture of all of it together. Then you pull it and you assign your case number to it. Log it, bag it, treat it just like any other evidence. Then I take the leftover, pack it up, throw it, take it to the dumpster. Now you got to be careful because some of those things you get out of those containers are going to have personal Social Security numbers, driver's license numbers, date of birth, things of that nature. So you got to respect the individual, the target that you're getting the stuff from, and you can't just
leave it. You can't just throw it in the trash can there at the car wash.
Right. No, I always take it and properly dispose of it. And I use those photographs I take, parts of them in my final report. Not, just one or two maybe that I'm going to use that I feel are a critical part of the case. So I'll use those in the report. And it does two things. One, it lets the client know you're working. Two, it allows the attorney, gives them a little bit of ammunition for the, if they're having a hearing, a pretrial or mediation type hearing, they can take one of those pictures and say, this is one of the things we found. This is what we're going to bring up. If you want to settle this, we'll move on. But it's a good tool for the lawyer if it's good damaging information. The attorney's going to have the final call whether you're going to use it or not. I've testified to garbage pulls in court before, but only a few times because most of the time.
But if you converse with the attorney, they're going to tell you what they'd like to find versus I don't need that.
And they may tell you this is what we want. We want alcohol bottles or anything incriminating,
drug
anything.
Showing income.
But if they tell you that, then you can, a lot of you at the garbage you pull, you can re-garbage and throw away.
Right. What we do, we keep our evidence. We all three have different companies, so we have a different way of labeling our evidence and things of that nature. But we package it pretty much the same and have it ready. But the key is purging that evidence. Once the case is over, get rid of it because this stuff will mold or whatever it may be. If there's any blood residue or body fluids in there, it's gonna cause some kind of odor later on. So it's just important to do. Again, this is just a kind of a dirty little thing that PIs have to do. And if they're going to be a good PI, then they're going to have to do it. And I've heard a few podcasts on this before, but you and I talked about it today, and we said, well, I think that would be a good subject matter, and we can talk about it. And the people that are listening to our podcast, our associates and their colleagues that are in the business, they can relate.
All the lay people that listen to us that never had any law enforcement or PI experience, they're going to start burning their trash.
All the paralegals I've worked with, when they see the evidence that we get, or I get, or you get, they say the same thing. I didn't think about that. I think when I just put my garbage out there, and that's the golden rule. You think it's going to be thrown away, it's going to be forgot about. Well, it's taken somewhere.
Yeah.
And we got way too much garbage in this world. Trust me. And we're overflowing with it. But it's been a fun little topic. Maybe we can get some feedback from some of our viewers and what they think.
What is in your trash?
What do you got in your trash? So it's just
you're right. I tear my address and name off my label.
I do too.
I do.
I shred as much as I can, and shredder's the best thing. I saw something one time that said, "Starve a spy, feed a shredder."
Yes.
And that was on a nuclear plant, Tim. That's where I saw that.
But don't put us out of business.
No, but 95% of the people aren't going to pay. They're going to throw it in the container and think, well, it's done. It's over. But it's just something that we use, and it's a kind of part of the business that a lot of people don't even know anything about. So it's been fun. We got how many viewers now on our little Facebook page, right?
That's the 970.
Yeah, getting there.
Yeah, if we can get over 1,000, that'd be good. So, and we want your input. We want your feedback. Like and share.
We want our members to invite their friends.
Right, and if we can get more friends, the better. And we can get this podcast up and rolling. We're going to do a last call here.
Last call shortly.
We got a special one too, so that's going to be fun. So until next time, it's good to see you.
Like, share, subscribe, and check the YouTube channel as well. You can watch the video via YouTube. But if you're driving, listen to it on Spotify.
A buddy of mine told me that day, he said, you're three pretty guys. And I said, well, thank you. He said, no, you're three pretty ugly guys.
Pretty ugly,
said,
yeah.
You're pretty dang ugly.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I listened to it in my car, and you can kind of, okay. But when you watch it, it kind of, you say, oh, you see yourself. But it's fun. We have a good time with it. We're going to continue to do it whether you like it or not, but we're going to continue. So we're going to close out, and we'll do a last call. So thanks again. Hope to see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.
welcome back. It's time for our last call, everybody's favorite segment of the podcast.
Last call.
No matter what time it is, it's 5 o'clock or happy hour somewhere
That's
in
right.
the world. So, what are we sampling today?
It's Jefferson's Reserve Single Barrel. The Jefferson Reserve is distillery's bourbon it's one of the highest. Fuck. Let's start over. I just messed up. All right.
All right, welcome back. It's time for our favorite part, the last call of the podcast, and where we sample.
Goddamn.
All right, I don't care what we
The
do.
podcast.
I'm gonna have a drink right
No matter what we do,
can't
we're gonna run with
Yeah,
it.
let's don't look at each other.
All
All
right,
right, go.
all right. Now it's time for the last call, everybody's favorite segment of our podcast.
Last call.
No matter what time it is, it's 5 o'clock or happy hour somewhere in the world.
That's right.
What are we sampling today?
Jefferson's Reserve Single Barrel. Tim, I'm assuming you bought this.
No, it was a gift.
Okay. This Jefferson Reserve is the distillery's quintessential or supreme bourbon in their portfolio, with a higher proof to satisfy the thirst of a bigger, more robust reserve offering. And we've had a couple reserves on there before, and I'm looking forward to this one because I like Jefferson's Ocean. I like Jefferson's Reserve, and they've gotten high ratings from us before. The single barrel allows the Jefferson Reserve flavors to be amplified and with the enhanced proof. This is a 100 proof bourbon. Jefferson's Reserve at 100 proof hits the apex of flavors without bearing the secondary elements.
You can always look how lighter color that is.
Yeah.
That's a single barrel.
Right.
You go to a double. If you double barrel that, it's going to be a
darker.
darker color.
Now, is it named after President Thomas Jefferson or the sitcom The Jeffersons?
I think it's got the president.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I think it's
Got his face carved.
There's a
in the
story
lid.
behind it, but I can't remember what the story is. And we'll have to.
If I'm not mistaken, Jefferson's bought out Ancient Age.
I think so.
I think that's the story behind that. They bought their distillery and took over, and it became Jefferson's.
And I was looking at this. The smell or the nose captures leather, and I can smell that. A humidor or a fried apple pie aroma. I can get that. Some of the flavors are cinnamon toast, toffee, and brown sugar. I think you'll find that. And it has a long finish with a hint of spice. So it
sounds good.
Oh yeah, it sounds good. It smells good.
Cheers.
Looks good. Cheers.
We've been
cheers,
super
salute.
busy this week, so
Crazy.
this is going to be. And
I
this
need this.
podcast itself took us about 8 hours to
It did.
Yeah,
to
technical
make. We even had
difficulties.
to call our
Technical
producer
guru.
Garrett from Lenore to come down. So we couldn't fix it. We had to bring in the experts. So
The big
Garrett
dog.
drove all the way down from Lenore and fixed us up. So
And Garrett's nickname was Moon Puppy. Is that
Moon
right?
Puppy.
Moon Puppy. And you were Moon
Moon
Dog.
Dog.
Okay, so Moon Dog, Moon Puppy. Okay, I get it now.
So
This
they-
is good stuff right here.
let's cheers it up.
And it's good on the rocks. I don't know that I'd like it neat. It's got a bite. It's got a bite on the back of the
It's
throat,
first.
tongue.
It's
But it's 100 proof, so it's
Yeah.
going to have that. But the flavors are all there. Sometimes you have a strong bite and you can't taste the flavors. It just overwhelms you. This doesn't do that.
Oh yeah, it's just right.
So,
I've always said that these gifts I got on my retirement, I kept saying this is the last one. Well, I found a couple more, and this one come from John Arnett. He is a CMPD officer that come to work with us at Duke, and this was one of his gifts.
that was kind of it.
That was
Yep.
good. Yeah.
and it's labeled there Bourbon Club of Concord. That he was a member of that club. So.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, and we talked about that, the Jefferson's Ocean allows for private bars, private restaurants, or whatever. If they want to get their name on the bottle, they can. Of course, they have to pay for it.
Oh yeah.
But I think that's pretty cool that club was able to get their own personal bottle. The little bar we used to go to there on 127, the bourbon bar that we'd go to, it had its own Jefferson's bottle. That was
Bootleggers.
Bootleggers, the name of it, right? It was good, and it's still there. It's a good little bar. So I'm gonna start it out. I'm gonna give this a good strong 9 on their grading scale, 1 to 10.
I'd give it an 8.5.
I'm 9 plus. But it's a good drink, a good flavor, good. Like I said, it doesn't have that hard first bite. I don't like that.
So we're gonna highly recommend the Jefferson Reserve Single Barrel, very old Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, very small batch. I got the berries on there a couple times. 50% alcohol, 100 proof, and it's a gift, so you don't know how much was paid for it. That's a pretty good gift.
I've got one, like I said, when I found that one, I found a couple more, and I've got maybe next week is the Jesse James bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds good. The bottle presentation looks good.
We'll try it.
Don't know what it's going to taste like, but we're going to try it. Jesse James.
When I retired in 2007, I think I got a dozen bottles of Crown Royal at my retirement. People brought, like Tim, when he retired, people brought that as a gift. I appreciated it, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So,
This is one of the best tasting ones.
I'm a big fan.
It's very good taste.
To me, Oceans ranks in my top 3. Jefferson's Reserve is in my top 3, and I'd say the other third would be 1792.
yeah, that's good too. The owner of the Bootleggers Bar that we're talking about, he's the one that turned me on to the Jeffersons.
Yes,
He was a big Jefferson's
me
drinker.
right that night.
I did, from the bar. And I said, you got to try this.
And then the girl that turned me on to 1792 is they were out of Jefferson's. She said, this is our next best run. And I was hooked on that also. It's a good drink.
Go ahead.
The more I drink it, I think I'm gonna raise mine to a 9.
3.9.
better.
3.9.
I mean, it really. I mean, it's good.
Yeah. We got any?
Anything on the agenda for next week? Is everybody going to be running like we did this past
I
week?
hope not. I swear
I'm going to be in Raleigh
Got to go to Central
tomorrow.
Prison,
Yeah,
correct?
to interview a client. I'll be working.
It's always good to go to Central Prison and do your interviews.
Yeah, it's always an experience. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
fun.
little bit tougher to get in there than you think.
Yeah.
About as tough to get in as it is to get out. So
There's 3 things in Raleigh that are joined together.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know that, but they're all 3 joined together.
Dorothea Dix and Central Prison. What's the other one?
NC State.
Hey now, but they are close. Very
all
close.
the properties joined
They
together.
are just about.
And I'm an NC State fan, so
Yeah.
don't say,
And they made the cut of 64.
Yes, they did.
Dorothea Dix closed.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no.
You sure? I thought Broughton was able to stay open. I think Dorothea Dix closed, if I'm not
Ah,
mistaken.
We'll have to do some research.
And
on
we're
that.
gonna have a podcast on that, on Broughton especially, because that's right here in our backyard, and we were talking about that a while ago. All the cases that the deaths that occurred there, whether natural or whatever, but there was. Do you know there's a huge graveyard on the
It's a
facility?
haunted property.
We did a SWAT class there, and we did it in the at night in the old portion of the
Oh
hospital.
hell, oh no!
And you want to talk about
Oh,
food?
y'all kiss my ass. In the tunnels, there's a tunnel network that goes from one hospital to the next underground,
Yeah.
because some people back in the day were not allowed to be outside.
Right.
We could do a super podcast just on our experiences taking people to Broughton.
Good gosh.
Oh, I got to tell you a quick story about it while you're talking about it, and I know we got to go, but our friend Marshall Klontz, you know Marshall, and he went on to be a really good detective in his days. He's retired now, but I had a commitment, and that was I hated those more than anything in the world. You had to go get the individual, and it was an involuntary commitment. It's not like they wanted to go.
Oh yeah, that's
And
what.
everyone knew about Broughton, and they didn't want to be any part of it.
Nobody wanted to go.
But I went and picked this guy up, and Marshall went with me because he wanted to ride, so he rode with me.
Was that when he was a dispatcher,
Yes,
or jailer? Or?
he was.
But you got to realize Marshall started when he was 15 years old
He did,
at the sheriff's office.
he
So
sure
he
did.
was probably the youngest person to ever.
and I learned so
Joined
much.
the show.
Youngest
much.
person with a lot of experience too.
Yeah.
though.
Correct. Once he made detective, he had 7 years experience.
He was one of the best I've ever seen at writing warrants, search warrants, and things like that. But
Correct.
but Marshall was with me, and we went to Broughton, and I'm tired. It was the third shift, and the guy was raising cane. We get out back in the day, you had two guys that would come meet you in white coats, big old white
Orderlies.
orderlies, and they didn't F around. They meant business. Well, when they got there, they grabbed Marshall.
Oh, he was a
They thought Marshall was the person that was going to be committed, and it wasn't. Marshall going, it's not. Marshall had a shrill voice. Anyhow, he said, "Stop me, stop me." He said, "Come on, son, come on. We got you. Everything's going to be all right."
We know it's not you, but
I
you
let
gotta
him
go
go
with
for about a minute because it was so fun, and the guy laughed. It got him to laughing. The guy that
Which
we were
probably
having
helped him
committed.
relax a
It
little bit,
did.
knowing-
It did. But it was funny as hell. But I've been over there too, where you've had to fight tooth and nail, and you're by yourself
I
a
know.
lot of times. And I see deputy cars from all over the state coming. That's the only.
If you want to know a story, if you had to fight somebody to take them, and you were mad, and you had the cage in your car, you'd slam on the brakes, and they'd say, "Why'd you do that?" And they hit the cage. Did you not see that pink elephant we about hit?
Yep.
This went on. It was funny, and this went on for years. Finally, one guy, the doctor was interviewing him. He said, "Have you seen anything you shouldn't have?" He said, "I seen some damn pink elephants."
in the road.
That's when I just kind of eased on down the hall, you know.
I've had them where they bang their head on the cage, the plexiglass.
To make it look like you.
They do it,
Yeah.
and then when you do it, they get mad.
Yeah.
Right.
Then why'd you do that? No, well, you've
But
been doing.
we do need to, if we could get some history on the State Nervous Hospital, we could really.
Man, that'd be great. That
I
would
just
be,
think there's a state nervous hospital.
It's the State Nervous
There's
Hospital.
so much history there. And
It's
did you
over
know that Burt County was the second largest employer of state
of
employees?
state employees
because of
then-
that,
yeah.
and the school of the deaf.
Well, you got the prison. You got
Yeah.
the prison,
and blind.
the school for the the blind, the deaf. You got what's the other place?
Western Carolina Senate.
Western Carolina
that
Center.
there? Is
Yes,
that
yes,
McDowell?
Still
no,
there.
that's there.
Who was one of the famous people that went to the School of Blind?
Doc Watson,
No.
Ronnie Millsap.
Ronnie Millsap.
Ronnie Millsap,
Ronnie.
Black Mountain, North Carolina.
Did you know that Ronnie Millsap played the piano on Kentucky Rain by Elvis? That's
Yes.
what got his. He
Oh, I
was in
didn't know
studio.
that.
Yeah.
He did.
And
Yeah.
his first start was Hee Haw.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah, I didn't know that, but
That was one of his first.
But he
gigs.
started on the Arthur Smith show. You remember Arthur
Yes,
Smith?
Arthur Smith.
on Channel 3.
Right. And I just always, he was a good entertainer. He was a good musician for sure. And North Carolina's been fortunate with some of the country music.
He's from Black Mountain, which is not far from Morganton or Burke County.
Correct.
Right. But he went to school for the blind, I guess. So, yeah. Okay. Anyhow, it's been fun.
Been real good.
Jefferson Reserve single barrel. We highly recommend it. It's a big 9 score on our scale. So,
Great taste.
yep.
Thank you, John Arnett.
Appreciate
John
John.
Arnett, thank you.
Thanks again. See you next time.